we'll turn on like a vacuum pump, right? When it gets above 32 and it's dripping out the spout, we turn on like Caden. You know that tool at the dentist's office they used to like...
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's like the vacuum. It's tiny.
Yeah, that thing. We have a really big one of those, right? And where there's suction on all the ends of these lines, so there's suction on all these spouts, right? So we get a lot more sap, like twice as much sap from these spouts. And the sap moves along the tubing more, so we get a lot more sap, right? My main job is like messing with this stuff, right? Because there's a lot of tubing on the farm. There's like 100 miles of tubing on the farm, like give or take maybe like 5 miles. So like between like, you just drove here from Maine.
Right.
Like there's 100 miles, it's like from here to like Concord, right? New Hampshire, right? That's a lot. There's tens of thousands of little fittings like T's or Y's, or basically like Legos essentially that keep all the tubing together. And because it's all on vacuum and it's a closed contiguous system, we need to make sure everything's airtight, right? Because stuff happens like trees fall down, or like little critters like to chew on the tubing, like squirrels and chipmunks and porcupine and fisher cat and bear and moose and all these things that live in the woods will mess with the tubing, right? Everything falls apart, not just like in farming, but in life in general, right, Dante?
Yes.
Second law of thermodynamics, entropy, things just kind of, right? And my job, my job during the season, 5 points for validation, is to keep the stuff together, right? Because when there's less leaks, I'm not worried like when there's a leak, the sap is gonna fall out of the tubing. I'm worried when there's a leak, this will suck outside air. And when this sucks outside air, we lose the power of the vacuum over there and over there and over there and over there. Everywhere we lose the power of the vacuum. And when we lose the power of the vacuum, we lose potential sap yields. When we lose sap yields, we lose syrup yields. It's a less happy Bob Baird. He doesn't really get like mad. He kind of just like simmers in silence when you should be out walking the lines.
Right.
Because in sugaring, you have to walk the lines. In order to find the leaks, we walk the 100 miles over and over and over and over and over and over and over. As long as it's daylight and it's running and it's above freezing, you walk these lines. There's little gauges everywhere, like hundreds of little gauges. And
I was going to ask, like vacuum sensors?
Yeah, like
leak
vacuum sensors.
Leak
Yeah,
sensors?
so smart, 20 points. Yeah, you literally call them vacuum sensors, right? And if it's high, it's good. If it's low, you walk in that direction. Now in modern sugaring, you can buy little spendy like solar panels with little antennae that like ping a little mesh signal that goes down to a server that goes to my iPhone, so I can be like, there's a problem, right? Like on line 67 over the mountain, and you can try to pinpoint more leaks faster that way. Yeah. What's going on with the moth? Are you guys making friends, or are you trying to...
Oh yeah, he actually tried to kiss me once.
Oh.
The moth did? Yeah, he was
About that little interspecies romance going on.
Interspecies. That's awesome.
So how do you tap? Is it just like a nail?
We're gonna see some tools in the sugar house, but it's literally like a drill that you could buy at Home Depot with like a little 5/16 bit. And we drill into the tree up not really deep. We're going about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 into the tree.
That's surprising, actually.
Yeah. it
Just
is
2
kind of
inches?
surprising. Yeah. And,
So the high density xylem, would you call it?
well, yeah. Well, it's this is a high pressure xylem, essentially
Okay.
high density xylem. Yeah.
The high pressure xylem's on the surface of the tree, not the core.
It's like the outer rim of the tree. We're not going into the heartwood of the tree. The heartwood is like providing a lot of structure to the tree, like the skeleton, right?
Yeah.
But the outside of the tree is where those like. The xylem is essentially like fibrous straws, you know, that carry liquid and gas up and down the tree. There's surprisingly a lot of trees have a lot of gas in them. Fun fact, I didn't know this before sugaring. And so when we're looking for leaks, sometimes you can hear leaks, but lots of times we're looking at air bubbles rushing through the lines. And I know like what a normal amount of gas is for a tree, and I know what an abnormal amount of gas is for a tree. And so it's like sometimes you just like hit a semi-hollow spot in a tree, right? And we'll pull a spout then, right? But over time, sugar makers have gotten more conservative in the depth of their tap hole, the diameter of their tap hole, like how many taps they're putting on a tree. Like an old timer would like stick like 4 buckets on this tree because you can like fit 4 buckets on this tree. But now we like don't tap trees that are like little babies, right? Just like we're not gonna make Caden go to work this summer, right? Like this tree is not gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Hopefully. Hopefully.
This tree is like too young to work, right? We tap and create scar damage. You can kind of see it in some of the spots, like there or here, really, right? And you want to make sure the tree is going taller and wider and bigger, faster than the amount of poking and prodding you're doing, right? This is all like stuff that like hippies like me talk about. Yeah, there's little chipmunk. Chipmunks are the worst. I think chipmunks are worse than squirrels. They're just like look a little more mischievous. They come across as a little more criminal. You know what I'm talking about? In terms of like chewing on the tubing, because like they are the bane of the sugar
See,
bug.
that's it.
Yeah, they are our enemies. Do not pretend like that is a cute little chipmunk, because it is not. That is our nemesis.
The little bandits. Little maple bandits.
No wonder Dave
Anyways.
gets mad all the time.
That's how we get this hap from the tree down the tubing to a building like that. We're gonna look at that building on our way back.
Cool.
Does this make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah. This is a great tour. I'm having tons of fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Tours, like, I don't have like lots of questions.
The rapport's not
Y'all
there?
are great.
We full on we love pancakes and waffles. So you
what
need
do you
to.
love more, pancakes or waffles?
You got to do the waffles right for me to like them.
Yeah, these waffles are like built for sure. What about French toast? Is that problem?
Only for a few. Only for a few.
Yeah. What's the question?
When do you guys stop tapping a tree, or do you ever?
Season's over.
No, I mean like no,
in the
like,
lifetime of a
in
tree?
the lifetime of the tree. When
Is
do
there
you?
a certain width you have to stop
Yeah,
at?
when do you decide?
Or is it like you
I
can
won't
tell how
tap
much-
like the greatest old grandmother of trees. But like that is only because like it's an emotional attachment. I think all kind of like beings have souls, and it just seems like
Oh my god.
rude.
Neglect the grandma.
I'm being serious, right? I'm thinking of there's a tree over there that is probably like 300 years old that I don't tap.
Wow.
Just because like why?
You don't tap?
Yeah, because like, do we need to make that much more maple syrup? You'll understand when you see the sugar house. There's a
Okay.
lot of maple syrup there.
Is there? Oh. No, you first, because you got more points.
Respect.
Gallons can a tree like this
Oh, that's a good question.
Make or hold or
Like-
pull. Yeah.
Extract.
This is like the sugar maker question. When you bump into a sugar maker in Burlington, this is the question to ask them, like, how many gallons per tap did you make?
Gallons.
It's kind of like, how good did you do last year? A lot of people, like, the natural thing is like, how many gallons did you make last year? But that's kind of like, how much money did you make
Right.
last year?
That's
in
exactly what it-
sugaring?
that's
Which
exactly-
I'll tell you, we made like 5,000 gallons last year, but like everybody knows the bulk price. Anyways, how much gallons per tap? If you can make a half a gallon of syrup per every spout in a tree, then you've had a good year. Like the weather has been on your side, nothing went boom in the middle of the
Half a
night.
gallon. That's a good tap.
Half a gallon of syrup
Per
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 spout
tap.
in a tree.
Per
How many
spout.
spouts go in a tree usually?
Well, most of the trees over here are one-tap trees.
Oh, okay.
There's more two-tap trees over there.
Okay.
So there's not like 13,726 trees.
Okay.
There's probably 10,000 trees, you know,
So some
because
have
some of them are
two.
two. Yeah.
Okay.
We are certified organic here, right? A lot of that program, right? You think like Caden, right? Like all these trees are organic, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they're all made of carbon and things like that.
When is it not organic? What are you doing to make it not organic?
Yeah, the converse question. Well, one, to be organic, we get annually inspected, and we have to do these things that support sustainability in the woodlands, right? We want to leave the woods better than we found them, right?
Yes.
So, like, we don't tap trees too small, like we talk about. We don't over tap too big trees. Well, there's a
Wow.
person who comes with a clipboard and pencils, and they inspect me every year, and they say, Jacob, why did you tap the tree like this? Why did you tap that tree? That looks like a small tree, Jacob. Or they'll say, like, we have to be required away from old tap holes, right? Things like that. We also have to meet biodiversity thresholds, right? Because, like, this would make some nice floors for Joel's kitchen, right? This oak tree is worth some, like, money if you're into, like, logging, right? But, we have to meet, you know, these indexes to make sure that, like, it's a biodiverse woodlands, because biodiversity is like good resilience when we talk about things like climate change, right? That's like one component of what it means to be organic. Second component is in the sugar house, which you'll see where you have like a lot of like things that we can use and things that we can't use in terms of like cleaning. A lot of sugaring is kind of like scrubbing out tanks. And the third thing is when sugar boils, it foams, and we want to make sure it's not gonna foam over an evaporator pan. This will make more sense in there. A conventional sugar maker uses this substance called Atmos 3000, which kind of is what it sounds like. It's like a chemical they make in Jersey, and we use organic safflower oil here. It's more expensive. You'll have to babysit it more, and it's harder to work with. 99.9% of this is boiled out or filtered out, but they can test for it for compliance. It's less than 20 parts per million in finished maple syrup. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it'll make more sense in there. Are there other outdoor questions?
When is a baby considered
Big
ready
boy.
to tap?
When is a baby considered big boy?
Yeah. See, that's too small, but that one's just right.
This one is like almost big enough. Like I'm sure Bob Bear drives past this tree and is like, like drooling. Like really, we want to tap a tree that's about 11 to 12 inches in diameter at breast height. DBH. People talk about this in like forestry world.
DBH?
Yeah, it's like diameter at breast height.
Oh.
Yeah, on average.
But what
I
if
mean,
you're 6 feet tall?
Like this lady, Victoria.
Her
What's
breasts
the
are
breast?
taller than mine.
Here.
I asked this question before, like, what if you really try? I asked this to the inspector. You know, there's some gray area. Like, what happens if it's a forked tree, right? Like, that are, they add up to, like, anyways. There's some looseness there, but basically, we want to make sure that the tree is, like, on its way to getting bigger, right? On average, the trees might be, like, 25 to 30 years old, probably, by the time we're tapping
Wow.
them. They're all wild trees, which we should point out. It's
Interesting.
Not like Jebediah Bear came here 150 years ago and planted all these trees, right? Their trees are naturally propagating from their seed structures. Maple.
okay.
Have you seen? Do you know what a maple seed looks like?
Nope.
Dante?
Not really.
Yeah, not really. I can
What
show
is it?
you on a
I'm gonna
picture.
tell you right now.
Google image
Yes.
it. It looks like one of those like helicopters that you could stick them on your nose.
Oh, like
You know
green
what I'm
rice.
talking about?
Yeah, I think.
No, the green
Hairpins.
Like,
rice.
They kind of look like little angel wings.
yeah.
Oh, like that? Are those maybe fairy wing things?
Fairy one things. We'll see it when we come back.
Okay.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. What's your question,
If,
Kaden?
if a tree is older, does it have different tasting sap or is it the same tasting?
Big brain.
Everybody's impressed. 15 points. An older tree will give you sweeter sap, and it will give you more sap, but not necessarily different tasting sap. You can tap other types of maple trees, and they still even give you like essentially the same tasting sap, according to the scientific studies. Like people tap red maple trees too. It's the most other common type of maple tree they tap. The further out west you get, kind of like the squirrelier the trees they tap. Maple syrup is really made from like Maine to Minnesota, and like you can tap box elders, right, which are technically a type of maple tree. But yeah, no, an older tree does not make a different tasting sap.
What's the kind of maple tree is this?
This is a sugar maple tree. The
Sugar
Latin is
maple.
Acer secora.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know how to speak Latin.
Sounds good to me.
It's Latin
believe you.
special.
All just nodded our heads.
So you were saying that these maple trees are wild.
Yeah.
So you have an acreage of, what was it, 50?
Yeah, well, it's sugar bush is maybe like 200 acres.
Okay, so
Yeah.
200-acre farm. You
Yeah.
guys, I guess the family bought the farm from the state?
The
and the
Bears bought it from another bear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
the land had...
At the beginning of this country.
They came up here real earlier, but we can do deep history. Yeah, but
No, but what I'm asking is the real estate / business aspect of it.
Yeah.
You didn't plant the maple trees; they were on the land, and then you decided
kind of
to
like approach them. Like it's almost like foraging, kind of. Like
Yeah.
maple syrup sugaring is like this weird, like area where it's like not quite really farming,
It's not
and it's
farming.
not really quite forestry. It's like forest product land. Does that make any sense?
Does the Baird family get the benefits of farming from a business standpoint? They get all the write-offs of industrial farmers?
Yeah, I mean, like it's a Schedule K.
Yeah.
Do you work for the
No,
IRS?
I'm an engineer.
Oh.
I'm nobody. But I find it fascinating because they didn't plant the trees. They got
Planted here by the IRS.
10,000 some odd trees, 200 acres.
Yeah.
And they're just, it is not a farm product.
Well, it's technically a farm product. There's a battle happening in the Vermont State House right now over whether maple sugaring should be kind of regulated through Department of
Oh my
Ag
gosh.
or like Department of Forestry. So like there's all these like kind of people are like, well, really, they're making food, so they should be like, you know, health inspected, and but you know, we should be able to like monitor runoff and things like that. And there's other people who are just like, no, like this is really about forestry and forest products, and so it's a thing. It's
Interesting.
you know, bureaucracies and capitalism tries to classify things into categories so we can organize it and we can count
tax
them.
you more.
And then we can count these things and then we can keep these things in order. And sometimes life doesn't add up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's start walking back because I'm worried that did anybody see the other fam? Fine?
No,
Okay.
we're fine.
Are there other questions about this stuff? Outdoor stuff? We're gonna go look at that pump house. Infused maple syrup.
Oh, we're gonna try that.
If you like maple
Smell
syrup.
mint.
Are you guys close? Question mark.
About all the environmental stuff.
The fence isn't looking too hot.
Joel, touch the car.
I almost bumped into it.
Don't cross the street.
Hey, the new one's coming out.
What's up?
The new one's coming out, and it's a nod to the old one.
The
They're
fence?
like, yeah, it's like.
Oh, the ghost bears haven't been here since forever, right? But there have been people since like time memory, right? Those people, for the most part in this area, were Abenaki or Abenaki people. We're kind of on like the border of like Abenaki.
Are those all Indian tribes you're talking to?
Yeah, those are Indian indigenous tribes, right? And they made maple syrup. No, not really maple syrup, maple sugar, which we learned about, right?
Interesting.
Mostly making sugar. They're the ones who taught settlers who came up, mostly like from Boston and Connecticut. You know, Vermont has like this whole thing about like dudes in red plaid and fighting the British and building big forts and, you know, big self-reliant woodsy folk, right? But like really they were probably like some kids from Connecticut who had too much money and they came up to Vermont because like the land was cheap. The land looks like this. Like it's not really good farming land,
No.
right?
No. Hilly.
Hilly and
Snowy.
rocky and ledgy and cold and snowy, right? Like, why would you want to move? Except for maple syrup, right? So they would tap trees. They'd have like sugaring camps throughout the 1800s where you'd like grab all your cousins and you'd like, oh, there's part of the tour. This is our SOS.
Can I scream?
We're here! Oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be like that.
I see. So she's got it good.
She's got it good.
got it
Sometimes
good.
she comes on these tours, but she takes away from all the educational information that I'm trying to
Maybe something everyone just goes.
osmosis
You,
sponge into people.
you can't compete with animals and babies, right?
Yeah, it's not that cute enough.
Look at her. She just goes under the wire fence. She just goes.
Ella! Yay! William!
Yo, what's up? No.
Wait, what?
Yo, what's up, girl?
Don't do that, dude.
Aiden, when they come down here, we're gonna need you to do like a 2-minute synopsis of everything. We're gonna wait until they come here. I'm just giving you a heads up so you can prepare.
She didn't hug me first. She didn't hug me first. Hi, buddy.
Hey, what's happening?
This is Mr.
Welcome to the
Jacob.
tour. My name is
That's
Mr.
Miss Ella?
Jacob, I guess.
Yeah.
William.
Hey, Ella, Mr. William.
That's Miss Joanne.
Hey, Joanne.
Hi, baby.
We're learning all about maple syrup. Telling lots of jokes. Having lots of fun. Not even up in the hills?
Well, we don't know.
We've never seen
Yeah, we
Never-
passed a couple of nice covered bridges on the way driving up.
Oh, awesome.
I was like,
the next one on the side, right?
I mean, like, they're classic New England things, so they have to cover some snowfall.
We don't have snow.
There's a bunch of haunted covered bridges up near where you're going.
Haunted covered bridges.
This is one called Emily's Bridge. Do you
I am insensitive to ghosts. I've never seen one.
Genevieve, do you believe in ghosts?
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we're Filipino.
Are you a medium?
She's open to it.
There's a lot of paranormal history in Chittenden. We can talk about paranormal stuff whenever you want. Let's ask me.
Maple syrup though?
No, paranormal maple syrup. Kaden, quick synopsis.
Syrup is taken from these trees and like boiled.
5 points for trying. He's trying.
Yes, Kaden.
Maple syrup. We tap a lot of trees here. We tap just shy of 14,000 trees in the month of March. We go out, we drill holes in them, we pound spouts into them, we hook tubing up to it, we collect an obscene amount of sap, and we push it into pump houses like this, and that's only as far as we've gotten. We've been chatting.
We are way too chatty.
We're stalling for y'all.
We're sabotaging
Really
Mr.
quick,
Jacobs'
and then we're
field.
gonna go up right from where y'all walked from.
Sun is.
Yes, I'm gonna
Yeah,
look into
it's gotten hotter.
Yeah, it's not that exciting.
Are we looking inside?
I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna look.
Is that an electric wire too?
It is. I think it's off because it didn't make a shock, but we should pretend like it's on.
Yeah.
Just put on our imagination.
I think it's off.
There's a tank in there, right?
lick
It's
it.
a shiny steel tank. That tank is holding, we learned about vacuum, right? And how there's suction on all these lines. That tank is holding the suction power. It's like a vacuum cleaner bag, let's say. It's filling up, there's big pipes coming into it from behind. It fills up with sap, not syrup, right? We're not collecting syrup from the trees, we're collecting sap. And that sap will go glug, 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 and fill up that tank. That tank flips like little buoys, like you see outside of Santa Barbara. And as those buoys flip over, they turn on big pumps, like submersible well pumps, let's say, food grade pumps, and it pumps the sap up to the sugar house where y'all parked. Bless you.
Wow, bless you.
Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep walking.
So everything's underground. Is all the pipes underground?
Yeah.
Or there's
So wait,
we don't see.
20 points.
how does
The
that
pipes are underground
get to this?
because we've connected pipes from that building underground to this building. Remember I said we tap trees on the other end of the ridge line?
Yeah.
On the other side of the mountain, we tap another 2,000 trees. All those lines feed down.
Oh gosh.
Because these lines, without the vacuum, they still need to gravity feed down to the lowest point, right? And then we're pumping it back over the mountain 1.5 miles away to this pump house.
Wow.
Buried a lot of lines across these fields, connect different sections. Why would we bury lines?
From the critters
Protect them from freezing.
and the temperature.
5 points. Temperature, yeah, 15 points. You're at 20 points now.
Boom. That's 85, y'all. 85 points. I am killing the game.
I was specific though. I said protect them from freezing.
Mike, you got to speak up.
Yeah, they keep them from freeze.
Sorry.
Yeah, specificity, 10 points, right?
Oh, here we go. He's on the board.
Team.
That's right.
Below the frost level, then they won't freeze,
Team
right?
Gungo.
Sap, who's seen sap before?
I haven't seen sap.
Yeah.
I've known some
What do
saps.
you
Ah.
when you think about sap?
Sticky.
Sticky, yeah, what else?
Yes.
Usually or creamy.
Pine trees.
Creamy
Pine trees.
What did she say?
She said it's usually clearish. You know, sap, a lot of people, when they think of sap, they think of like pine pitch.
Pine. I
Right?
said
Like
pine trees.
sticky on the side of the
How
tree.
loud can I
The
get?
sap that we're collecting from maple
gonna yell
isn't
now.
thick and
That's it.
sticky, right? Yet,
What is?
Sure.
it's
What?
mostly water.
Huh.
It's the sap from the tree is 98 parts water, 2 parts sugar, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
it moves like water.
One
it
part water,
breathes
2
like
parts sugar?
water.
Really? So it's not like pine sap?
It's not like pine sap. Yeah, it's not
That surprises me.
brown and sticky yet. It doesn't even taste mapley. Like if I gave Joel a glass of it, you wouldn't be like, thank you, Jacob, for that delicious mapley juice. You'd be like, that's a weird coconut water, Jacob. Like, what flavor is that?
How do I get
Right.
it off of me?
A
Like, it
coconut.
doesn't taste mapley until after you cook it, right? I'm pausing here so y'all can walk through and I can close this. But it's all...
And is the cooking it to evaporate the water content?
What's that? I'm sorry, watch out.
The evaporating is
There's a
that
car.
the cooking to evaporate
Hold the baby, Tori.
the water out?
Hold the baby.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and leave you just with the sugar.
And leave you with a condensed sugar.
condensed sugar.
That is like the essence. Mike just gave 20 points, Mike. He's arrived
40 points.
like gearing up.
Mike, show up.
God, what a show
Mike
off.
just gave us the essence of sugaring. The essence is like, we take this thing that we found in nature that has this much sugar, and we are boiling and boiling it and concentrating and concentrating it. That's what makes pure maple syrup, right? It's a single ingredient product. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So it's 1 part sugar, 1 part water, 2 parts sugar?
Finished maple syrup or? No, the sap is 98% water.
Oh, okay.
So it moves like water. Like I was saying before, where I was going with this is that the sap will freeze in the lines, right? Like if the lines, especially if the lines aren't drained or the lines are snagged. Which one? We try to keep these lines right? Like see these, well, they're covered. Well, you'll see them, but like these lines are suspended in the air with high tensile wire that we lash the pipes to, just to kind of keep them straight and on the downhill, right? In really super nerdy maple syrup land, we talk about like grades, right? We want everything on a 2% grade so it will drain properly. We have to worry about things like turbulence and things like that in the lines because we'll see in the sugar house, but we can get a lot of sap really quick.
Really?
Anyways.
Wait, it's half a gallon a year from a tap. I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot.
Half a gallon of syrup.
Oh,
What we
not
learned
sap.
Before, what did Victoria say at the beginning of the tour?
Why am I here?
I did not say that, Mike. It takes a lot of sap to make a tiny bit of syrup, right?
Okay.
Like Negative points for interrupting. It takes like 40, but it can take even like 60 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup.
Oh, wow.
About like weird other tree syrups, like birch syrup,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. Why we don't tap birch trees as often? One is birch is like a pioneer species, so like maples are, you know, like just like the dominant hardwood species in the New England forest, so they'll take over a forest. But birch trees have sap that is half as sweet as maple sap, right? So it'll take like 80 to 100 gallons of birch sap to make the same amount of syrup, right? Does that make any sense?
When it comes down to it.
Say it again?
Not as cost effective.
Not as, yeah, money. Money and time, labor, all of this factors in. Sugaring is like a silly thing, right? It's a like kind of like a miracle that like we still sugar, right? Because like that's why 70% of the sugars Americans consume are like corn or cane. Because like corn is like a packed full of sugar, right? Think about a little kernel, right?
Yeah.
But there's other money reasons too that are less transparent, like we subsidize a lot of corn and monoculturing throughout the Midwest, and that's why we get a lot of corn syrup. We were briefly talking about history before we got distracted.
Mike.
Is there another mic?
Where did Mike go?
Minus points for him too. Taking over the scorecard. We were talking about sugar camps, right? And I was saying, Vermont was bad farming land. They cut down all the trees. Like Burlington, where y'all are headed, used to be a log town, right? They float logs down the lake. But they cut down all the trees to build houses and, you know, places like Boston. But then they introduced merino sheep to Vermont, right? In like early 1800s, the ambassador of Portugal. Motion for wool.
Fiber arcs.
Yeah, that's my driveway.
Joe's here. Joe's here. Barbara's here. Barbara's here.
Vermont was cleared, 80% cleared, 20% forested, right? So like looking across these hills, this was an old sheep farm, that old north end of the barn had a lot of sheep in it back in the day. It wasn't really until like people started having animals that they started building sugar houses like this, close to the farm, so you could be close to your animals, close to your sheep and then your cows, right? Because sugaring was like an extracurricular activity that you used to like put on your college resume back in the day. It was like a side hustle, is what I'm trying to say, right? You could never make a living making maple syrup. It was a thing that, like, maybe if you did it really well, you could, like, make some extra syrup for, like, Christmas presents, or, like, to sell to town, or, like, barter for, like, milk, let's say. We're gonna walk through the sugar house now. Everybody follow me. Woo! Spouting trees, right? That's a tree that looks like it's been tapped. It's actually a piece of firewood. There's we talked about the damage that tapping creates, right? The little scar damage inside the xylem, right? How we tap trees with drills. We talked about little vacuum gauges, ways that we monitor the vacuum and get high sap yield. We talked about like chipmunks and squirrels and things that chew on tubing, right? Newcomers, does this make any sense at all? No, maybe a little bit. We take all that sap. We saw the pump house at the bottom of the hill, and I said we pump the sap up here through buried lines. They come through the ground over there, right? And from those lines, we pipe the sap into different big kind of tanks. Let's go look at a tank. Da-da-da. Follow me through this little. We got it.
You can't really see how big that tank is.
Yeah, I can't.
4 to 6 weeks.
How many?
Let's switch spots. Let's roll reverse.
All right, guys.
Your time is up.
Times 13,726 create an imaginary flow rate in your head.
Okay.
Calculator for that.
This tank, the one with the light under it, holds 6,500 gallons.
6,000, and a drip is 1,000% of a gallon. So.
So probably like 3 weeks, right?
4 weeks.
Yeah, man. It's less than 1,000.
Okay, whoever didn't see the tank should go look at the tank. I'm gonna see that.
We're looking. Excuse me, gorgeous. Excuse me, gorgeous. Oh yeah, you're in. You're in. Ladies first. So this is big. So it's really 2 tanks.
We just put up this washable seal just the other year.
It's pretty big.
Would vacate, right, and be able to go through.
Oh, wow.
What do we think? Any guesses? Weeks?
Yeah, I don't think it's weeks. Yeah, I'm with Barbara. We have 1 day. I'm thinking 2 days. Yeah, I'm with you, Greg.
Who said 1 day? Was that
This young lady here.
Oh, I can't see.
It's Barbara.
Oh, I didn't mean Barbara. Barbara wins.
Come on. Winner.
1 day, but like on a good day, this tank will fill up in 2-3 hours.
This thing is massive, Jacob.
Yeah.
It's massive.
A river of sugar water coming off the mountain at you, and you need to deal with it, right? You need to reduce it. You need to move it. The best maple syrup, whether you're in Maine or New Hampshire or Quebec or Vermont, is made fast, right? It's in your trees and boiled in barrel syrup, right? Sap is perishable, right? And that's one of the reasons why. Also, we're just gonna run out of liquid storage here. There's about 25,000 gallons of liquid storage.
25,000.
These tanks, the tanks behind the wall, right? And it will all fill up. This will overflow like a bathtub, and we don't want that to happen.
Oh my gosh.
So from here, will. Yeah, metaphorically perhaps, yeah, 5 points.
I come from a long way.
High concentration to low 30 points. Science. Lots of times, high concentration to low concentration. Lots of times in like bio class, we learn about osmosis in terms of like things permeating cellular membranes, right? And modern applications, folks use. That's okay.
Sorry.
50 points.
No, don't say it. No, don't say it. Little competitive. Little competitive, Jake.
Osmosis is used in like clean water applications, desalinization plants. Like you can buy little ones for your countertop now. Like if you live somewhere where there's hard water, get filtered water, right? Sap, we kind of learned, is like kind of like dirty water, right? It's mostly water with a little bit of particulate, and we take the sap and we force it through these big, fancy filter membranes under very high pressure, like 400 psi. And clean water can pull through, but all the particulate matter, like the sugars and the minerals, everything we love about maple syrup, can't pass through. So if we do that over and over again, we end up separating clean water from everything else. That sap becomes like concentrated sap. What are you smiling about, Dante?
I'm just listening.
So happy.
I always do that.
Look, this is my regular face.
We are getting to the.
Can't wait to taste the samples.
Yeah. It's the best of the best of the best in the store. He did say that, and I hooked onto that right away.
So that clean water we save, because we can do a lot of cleaning, we talked about that, which this machine gets thousands of gallons, osmosis machines get thousands of gallons, but that sugary substance is what we boil, right? Why we do this whole weird thing with osmosis machines is because it reduces the boiling time. Mike taught us all that that sugaring is mostly just boiling water and turning it into steam, right? It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of labor, a lot of fuel, a lot of everything to turn water into steam, right? And the more water we can pull out with fancy filters, the less water we need to turn into steam. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Would it cost more to steam versus to filter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do osmosis?
Yeah, the osmosis machines require a lot of power.
Right.
They're electric intensive, but it costs way more to boil. Now it cuts our boiling time like tenfold, let's say.
Oh my gosh.
Right? It is
Wait,
the
so
main reason why
how many gallons is this? The 28?
6,500 gallons.
6,500 gallons. So 6,000. So how many gallons of the particulate do you collect from that? 2%. So
We take out more than 90% of the water.
that's a lot.
Well,
It's
it
a lot.
varies, but on average, we're probably bringing the sap up to somewhere around 18 to 20% sugar content. Finished syrup is all 2/3 sugar. It's all 66.9% sugar, right? So that's the main reason why like sugaring is like. Did we talk about the sugar? It's kind of boomtown in maple syrup land. Like a lot of growth, really, really fast. The industry has quintupled in size over the past 15 years. So yeah, wow.
Attributed to what?
Well,
Just demand?
yeah,
Or
one is
availability?
they kind of go in hand in hand.
Manufacturing, all of it.
Well, yeah, well, that's like reason number one, right? Demand is up with all natural sugars like honeys and agaves and everything that is like less refined, less processed. People moving away from high fructose things. As there is more syrup too, like people have ad budgets and like people buy Google ads and you know people have maple syrup tours on their farm and all sorts of things designed at selling more maple syrup, right? Second thing is all the technology we learned about, vacuum, osmosis, tubing, right? All of these things that have allowed 3 people to run a 14,000 cap operation, right? There were farms the size of Rutland County back in the 80s, but they employed a lot more people, took a lot more time, boiled a lot, took a lot longer boiling, right? And so the technology is a big thing. That's the reason why like the largest operation in the world is in northern Vermont. They cap 500,000 trees over 40,000 acres. It was started by the hedge fund arm of Mass Mutual Insurance, and that's like reason number 3 is like money and finance and like commodification and all things that like have slowly like as the price of maple syrup has stabilized, yields have stabilized over the past 3 to 4 decades, right? Like big money has wanted to get involved in maple syrup. So like if you made a lot of money, like I don't know why I'm doing this. It seems serious. Right? If you made a lot of money on like business now, Wall Street, Reagan stocks. Then like you moved to like upstate New York and you bought a giant plot of forest in the Adirondacks and you use that as a way of like lowering your tax burden because you dump all your money into it and you hide all your money in the Caymans, right?
Right.
We're getting a little imaginary, but this is not too imaginary, right? Like there's a lot of big installs happening, right? This machine is a pasta pot, right? It's called an evaporator, right? These big things are big burners, right? They're like big flamethrowers. Don't worry, they're not pointed at you. They're pointed in that direction. There's a firebox underneath. There's different pans, right? And people can stand up and look at it if, you know, people start crowding the stairs. Don't make noise out. You know, there's different bays and channels. The sap comes in, it boils, it bubbles, it's sweet. We're turning like this. And the bubbles come up. We talked about the foamers before. That was one of the reasons why we use organic safflower oil. But the sugar's caramelized. This is where it turns brown, right? There's a thing called a Maillard reaction. Same thing when you cook onions in a skillet and the onions turn brown. That's what makes it caramely and delicious and tastes like mapley, right?
Okay.
That scoop is like an old timer would just like pick up and see how thick it is. Now we're using hydrometers, right? Like they use in brewing where we're measuring bricks to get these sugar densities exact. Because we sell syrup on the bulk market and you need to be exact, right? Yeah.
Isn't it crucial also to stop that process, not to go beyond? In other words, when it caramelizes, not to keep going.
Yes.
So I know like with roasting coffee,
Yeah.
for example, once it hits the drum, you know,
Yeah.
once you dump the roasted coffee
Yeah.
at a certain, whatever roast you want it, it hits a drum that has a vacuum that, because it's so hot, it'll keep cooking.
Mm-hmm. You gotta
And if
stop
you-
it.
and
You gotta
it-
like flash
It's
kill.
like it vacuums all the hot air immediately out of it. Otherwise, it'll burn. So
Are
I'm
you a
wondering
coffee
with this, once it gets to that caramelization point, if you will,
Sort
How
of.
do you stop, like, is it necessary to stop that process right away? To stop the heating?
When we talk about this, we're mostly talking about getting it to a certain thickness, or a certain density,
Okay.
or a certain viscosity. Throwback,
Yep.
Joel. We want to get it to the right thickness. And once we get it to that right thickness, we want it to stop, right? It's better to draw syrup off thicker than it is to be thinner, right? What we're measuring during this process is basically like how thick it is. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
I do love
Thank
coffee,
you.
though. I could use it for the coffee. Is that better?
For our next visit.
I heard a door open, yeah.
Be right back. It's just like a pressurized cheesecloth, essentially, right? Like an old school, like a small sugar maker would basically use like a cone drip, like a where's the coffee?
Coffee.
Like a Chemex, essentially, right? And you pour it
Or
through.
even an auto drip, you still have there's always filtration.
Yeah,
You
there's
don't want-
always filtration. Maple syrup. Why? See this stuff on the pan? See this, Dante?
Yep.
Yeah. You want to describe that to everybody?
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where they hold the maple syrup?
Yeah, that's where we hold the maple syrup.
okay.
But this stuff, I'm talking about like this stuff, is niter, right? It's essentially like something that solidifies. Most things turn into water and turn into steam. But this solidifies, and it's you have to filter it out, right? You've probably never had unfiltered syrup clear, but it can be grainy and has sediment, right? And it leads to spoilage.
side stuff.
Nobody likes unfiltered syrup,
sticking on the
right?
side.
So all syrup is filtered, and we stick it in these drums like cans of pickles, essentially, right? There's 4 or 5 folks who control like 90% of the maple syrup in the United States.
4 to 5.
Yeah, 4 to 5, right? If you're buying from H-E-B in Austin or like wherever Whole Foods in California, it's all coming from these same 4 or 5 bulk packers, essentially, right? They amalgamate the crop and they're able to satisfy those large grocery distribution chains, right? We sell some syrup to one of them, right? And then the other syrup we make, we roll into this room, and then we reheat and we refilter, and then we stick to the little jugs 2 at a time. We did yesterday.
Who is not trying syrup?
There's 6 different grades, but it's 18 times 6.
Barbara.
18 times 6 is...
Does anybody want to share cups? Just
Yes.
for
I'll share
fun?
one.
I can share with my wife.
It's 136.
108. My wife said maybe. I can guarantee we'll buy some, don't worry.
I'll take the
I'm just
first
gonna
shot.
Taste it first.
40 points. Helping out. This one, Katie, you want to pass to the back? Pass to the back, pass to the back. This is the lightest syrup. There's 4 main grades of maple syrup. They're kind of like flavors of maple syrup, right? As you move through the season, the syrup gets darker and stronger because the sap kind of gets cloudier. There's a
In
nerdy
1 year? In
yeah,
1 year?
over the course of 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, that's really
We have another
interesting.
couple coming in. So,
We'll scare them for you. Here.
I'm gonna talk to them very quick.
All right, you better talk to them first. Give them a
The next
warning.
flavor that's coming up is Amber Rich.
Which one? This
What we're
one?
trying right now is golden. Does anybody need more golden?
Golden.
Oh my God!
I love golden.
It's really good.
Wow! Do you like it, baby?
It's the most subtly
Oh, too sweet?
Here's 2 more golden.
Golden delicate is the most subtle.
Here's golden.
That is
And this
pretty
the Amber,
good.
And I'm just gonna check in with that other card. Jenna abandoned.
Golden's
She went
not
off to
good.
the town event, and now I'm here alone. It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry, Jacob.
This is so good.
Tastes like charging you a pound syrup.
Joanne, what are you doing?
Mine is 100. Just put it back to the bottom.
Great.
So which one's this one?
Has anybody tried the second one yet?
No, sir.
Joanne's too slow. Mine
Here's the second one. It's called
Mine is
Amber Rich.
50.
It's probably most
Amber
if
Rich.
you're used to buying her maple syrup in the store, it's probably Amber Rich. Right? It's just like a good medium body flavor too, right?
Are these all the same?
Okay, do the shot, do the shot.
Everybody use this?
Thank you.
Is this just a
No, these are all the same things everywhere. The grading system has become standardized in recent years. So like, we have our
Give that to the boys.
different syrups.
Do you get one, Greg?
You got one? Hey, did you get it?
When you grade a maple syrup, you need to grade it by the color, but also by, right? And super nerds like me, you can like measure invert glucose or measure like light transmittance to tell you what a different grade is as well, right? So really, from here it gets a little bit darker. What makes the difference between the grades?
Money.
Age and season.
The seasonality, yeah, like early season, late season. The nerdy answer is that, you know, maple syrup is made of fructose and glucose, and as you move through the season, you get a darker, stronger syrup because Mother Nature's breaking sugars down to simpler sugars. You look scared.
So you went from fructose to
Did you try it?
glucose?
Did you like it?
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Both
Oh, I
fructose
didn't
and
get it.
glucose
It was
occur in maple syrup, but the later in the season you get more invert glucose, and when you cook it on the big
Get a
evaporator,
napkin.
it gets darker and more caramely and more maple.
Later in the season, the darker it gets.
Later in the season, the darker it gets is the short answer. Yeah.
My perception is that from the golden was actually more flavorful, and the amber was in a way less flavorful but sweeter.
Did anybody else feel the way Mike feels? Everybody agrees with Mike. Every batch of maple syrup is different. And like flavors are different. Like some people try this syrup and they're like, that tastes like vanilla, or that tastes like nuts. And I'm like,
Which one's this? Dark
so I don't get any nuts. This one is dark robust. But it does get kind of, most people would say it gets stronger as you move along. There are different batches of maple
Barbara,
syrup.
do you want-
It's just kind of like single batch here, so the syrup is unblended. So there's a little bit of nuance between each batch.
Unblended.
Different farms make different tasting maple syrups. Yeah, what's up?
I'm just saying,
Yeah, I got a napkin for you. I got a wet wipe. How does that do?
these are.
He spilled.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. It's okay to spill. I spill things all the time. And then from there, it gets really dark, really strong.
So wait, this was the dark robust you just
That was
passed
the
on?
dark robust. And spoiler alert, that one's probably my favorite. Like that's what I have in my fridge. But like syrup is really personal preference. Like some people love that really light stuff. Some people love this really dark stuff. Sometimes a darker syrup is built like as a cooking syrup. Here's a very dark syrup, very dark syrup, very dark syrup. Thank you so much for
I know you were sure.
Are we out of cups?
You like all of them?
You got more cups.
What do you like?
This is very dark strong syrup for those who want to try very dark strong syrup. Yeah, of course, we can keep these out.
Okay.
And then I will get more cups.
Here's the very dark voice.
Very dark, okay.
Wow.
Did you need one, Mike?
No, I have all of them, thank you.
Very dark.
This one that Joanna is pouring ice is the spruce mix.
I'd like a very dark. Are there any more very dark?
Sorry.
What is it?
Very dark. Tasteful.
And then a lot of these are geared toward like this is delicious in like tea or coffee or on vanilla ice cream.
Oh my gosh,
A lot of
yeah,
them are
yeah.
Geared towards like the.
That's very tasteful.
Do we have enough of those? Oh, yeah. And towards like the cocktail market too.
Oh, wow.
Like a mint maple syrup is what we're pouring next.
Oh, that's.
Which
baby.
Victoria was talking about earlier.
Okay, which one is that? The mid one?
This one is spruce.
Okay, we'll try this.
Now we're gonna try the mint for those who want like.
You have to try that, Johnny.
Well, you can hand me.
Here's the mint. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Flying out of here.
Yeah, they were all sleeping on the switchbacks to get out here.
Wow. I think we're slowing down.
Which one's that?
Yeah, I have to.
I'll try mint.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Great segment.
Oh my
You can
God.
order these online. You can order it today.
Jacob.
Online shipping.
Jake.
Order today and have it shipped home, or you can grab it off the shelves. Most of these things will have to go in a check bag if you flew in. Those tiny little ones we go in a carry-on bag. But otherwise, shipping looks sort of like this if you want to buy maple syrup today. More the point game, Joel.
little bit.
No, not you. Who won? I thought you were keeping track.
So I had 110.
110. Did Joel win?
Victoria,
Who won?
Victoria had.
Points, I'm knocking the thing
I did. I think I got 50 off. I think.
Okay, since nobody knows who won the point game, everybody can grab a sticker if they want. Yeah, you can take a magnet instead of a sticker if you want a magnet.
Woo!
Yeah.
So Jake, the mint.
Is the mint? Yeah, go ahead.
Is the mint from the mint leaves that are growing wild on your farm?
Yeah.
Is this spearmint?
Yeah, it is spearmint.
It's insane, man.
Isn't it delicious?
It's fantastic.
I think it's really good.
But the sprig was also really surprising.
Yeah, that's good.
I like
That sprig.
You like the mint more?
I think it's a mint.
Yeah,
Do you want to?
I
That was it.
All right, guys, good job.
Let's go.
All right, go.
Let's go. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of the trip. Yes, you too. And now my wife reminded. I think we're out here.
I told you.
I said, I know you live here. I'm like,
swag. Black people have the swag. Even white supremacists are like, yeah, they have swag. It's like undeniable coolness. Like black people are so cool, they can own their own racial slur. Okay, that's how cool they are. No, the minority is cool enough to own their own slur.
You probably
You don't see Chinese.
What are we on?
You ever create so many users?
We are going to Burlington,
Passwords, so no one will steal your identity.
Look at it.
And you no longer know your own identity. Like username, Tom Papa. Wrong. Monkey47? Welcome. But sometimes they email you back your password when you forget it. You're like, what the hell was I thinking? Butterfly whispers? Hey, good to hear from you, Kenny. Sorry I left you in the woods that night. Glad you found your way out.
Yeah. I will. You have to share with me. I want to try some. I don't know. Go in there and check.
I did check.
Just go then.
Never has long.
Everyone says that when they get their ice cream.
What do they say? Is that a small?
Yeah.
This game here. Let's get something.
Yeah, wait, there's a Ben&Jerry's land.
Have you ever been told that your ass is too big? Have you ever been asked if your hair is the wig? Have you ever been told you're mediocre and bad? Have you ever been described as having a weird shaved head? Have your friends ever forgotten you, driven away? Yes, they have. They forgot about Jay. Were you ever called homo because it's good at your job? Have you ever been told that you look like a llama?
Get your wallet, please. Isaiah. Take this.
We haven't eaten real food yet. Right? The pizza. I'm just saying.
There's a
pizza,
gym?
Oh yeah, pizza we had. I know. I ate the last pizza. We had pizza in the car.
Good job.
Yeah,
Do you have the vegetarian or do you have the
chicken. It's a good one.
You got more of that.
Here.
My favorite. My favorite.
It's not like my previous creamy that I just had.
Okay.
And that's like the same.
Very same.
That was the same, berry and lemon.
Well, it's not creamy. This is
That's substandard.
Come here, did you like?
This way to the Flavor Graveyard. It's a graveyard. Man, just walk. And use your eye holes.
Oh yeah.
Huh? She asked me 3 times.
See, it's too dark.
It's fun. Work off their sugar high. Where are they going?
It's over there.
It's an actual graveyard?
I guess. I've never been there.
Hey Claire, drive up here. I let this camera run for almost 80% of Jacob's talk.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna
That was
be.
really informative.
Yeah, he's great.
I like him. Never mind. Let's go later. You got one. Huh? You got one? I was gonna put the kids and you guys all come with it.
Oh, this is funny.
Hey, go in the middle. Go in the middle.
Look, they have years. They should have put a black light. Their macadamia was not a hit, and I love macadamia. To die.
It only lasted a little bit.
It's 2001 to 2001. RIP.
Dearly depinted. Did it come out, Chris? Oh, cool.
Have some back.
Oh, good.
Oh, my goodness. Hello.
Do I smell? What do you know?
I'll make you room.
You guys can sit back down.
I didn't get anything. That's what I got. This is Jaja's.
Mom, whose water is this?
Huh? That's yours.
Hi. What'd you get?
One, so be careful.
That's the problem.
Take your time. Okay.
It's called a banh mi.
Banh mi?
Banh mi dog.
Banh mi
The dogs are carrots with tofu skins, pickled ginger, peanut butter sauce. It's really good.
How do you like it?
Awesome.
You like it? Did you come back?
We're good? Maybe.
Hesitation. No.
Very bliss.
You know, Christmas. What'd you get?
I don't know.
What?
Whatever my husband gave me. Yeah.
What'd you get her?
That's what I got.
Buffalo mac and cheese.
The buffalo mac and cheese.
Yep. And
Is it a crunch wrap?
the crunch wrap. Mac crunch
That's not a crunch wrap?
Alright, but what's this one? Just crunch wrap supreme.
Crunch wrap supreme and a buffalo mac and cheese.
And a piece of carrot.
And a carrot. What about you, Auntie Genevieve?
I got a buffalo mac crunch wrap.
Oh, same thing? How do you like it?
It's good.
It's good?
Spicy one. It has like a cheese, but it's not actually cheese. It has like chicken cheese to make the texture. Isaiah. No.
What about you, Kaden? What'd you get? Same thing? Oh, you're all sharing, huh?
Guy Fieri.
Isaiah.
Good Fieri. Cut me, Kaden, cut me.
Huh?
Cut me.
Now hop on and give it a go. That's a good. All right, yes, sir.
balance.
No, I'm waiting for her. So whenever you're ready.
We're already starting. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's the end. Yep. Alright, so the secret is communication. So the person in front of the captain, the person in the back was called the stoker. The stoker is actually the one that you're generating most of the power. He's going to be captaining and you're generating most of the power. Don't worry, it's actually because of the timing belt, it's going to be pretty much the same. As long as, so anyways, let's start it. What I want you guys to do is, use some good captain, so you pick the side that you feel most confident in. Like the right or left hand side. That's going to be important when you start. The starting is the hardest part. Okay. After that, once you get it going, you're all good. The one thing I will also recommend to you is that when you're turning, very small movement, because if you do exaggerated stuff, it's going to turn your bike like this, like a fish tail. You're just going to whip her around. That's good to know. Yeah. If you want to cause trouble, that's an easy way to do it. I would just say that maybe not on the bike path because there's not much space to whip, but it's one piece of, it's a couple piece of metal, but it's going to flex. You're going to feel like you're not following him at some point, but you are. You're always going to be following him, it just has a delayed reaction. You're going to see him do a movement, and then you're going to follow along with it. So don't be too freaked out if it feels like, that handlebar is just for your sturdiness. It doesn't really direct, so you don't need to throw weight on it. And again, just go with the flow and let him do his thing, because you will be right behind him. So let's give it a start. So you're going to
the same way. So I like to take up my right foot down.